At the annual company picnic, my boss pulled me up in front of everyone and joked, "Here's the real MVP, most vulnerable person, always crying about deadlines and still expecting a bonus." Everyone howled with laughter as he pretended to wipe fake tears. I smiled thinly, waited until Monday morning, and filed a formal report, timing it perfectly with his pending promotion review. Let me tell you what happened at the annual company picnic. It's been months now, but I still think about that day like it just happened yesterday. It was one of those early summer Saturdays, hot but not too hot, with a light breeze cutting through the heat. Our company, Midstream Logic, a tech consulting firm based just outside of Reston, Virginia, was throwing its yearly picnic at Lake Fairfax Park. We had tents set up, barbecue catered from some local place, cornhole boards, a few inflatable games for people's kids. HR even hired a DJ who didn't seem to realize it wasn't a frat party. I wasn't going to go at first. I don't like company events. I'm not good at pretending to be fun. Work me on weekends. But I'd been told by my manager, Mike, that showing up to these things matters. And since I was up for a project lead role, I forced myself to go. I showed up, smiled, shook hands, played the game. I wish I hadn't. Mike is my direct supervisor. Early 40s, divorced, still acts like a guy in a frat. He talks too loud, laughs at his own jokes, and loves making comments that are just on the edge of inappropriate. He's the kind of boss who'll say something nasty and follow it up with, "I'm just messing with you. Lighten up." If you push back, he labels you as too sensitive or says you can't take pressure. We've never gotten along. I'm the kind of person who works hard but needs structure. I like clarity. I don't like being screamed at because a client changes a deadline without warning and now I'm somehow the problem. I've had meetings where I got overwhelmed and asked for help, only to be met with smirks or silence. Mike once told me, "You're not cut out for leadership if this is how you act under pressure." Anyway, back to the picnic. Everyone's hanging out. It's mid-afternoon, people are 3 drinks in, and Mike gets handed the mic by the VP to do his little awards. They've done this for a few years now. Dumb gag awards that are supposed to be funny but usually just toe the line between awkward and straight-up mean. Mike gives out a few harmless ones first. Stuff like most likely to be on mute while talking and best snack drawer. People laugh. It's all fine. Then he calls my name. And now, he says, "We've got a special award for someone very close to my heart." People laugh, already waiting for the punchline. Our MVP this year. That's right, folks, the most vulnerable person. I stood there frozen. Some people laughed because they didn't know where it was going. Others looked confused. Mike wasn't done. "This one's always in my office. Always crying about deadlines. Always overwhelmed. But still expects a bonus. Let's give it up for the company's official emotional support animal." Then he pretended to wipe fake tears from his eyes and made sobbing noises into the mic. That got them laughing. Real laughter. Some people were bent over, howling. I just stood there and smiled. I didn't say anything. I didn't walk away. I didn't yell. I gave a tight smile and laughed weakly like I was in on the joke. But inside, I was burning. Not embarrassed, furious. That moment did something to me. All those times I brushed off his comments. All the little humiliations in meetings. The private insults passed off as feedback. I realized I'd been letting him get away with it for years. That day, he did it in front of the whole company. And he thought there would be no consequences. He was wrong. I left the picnic early. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I went home, sat down, and started typing. I pulled out every old email, every Slack message, every vague insult I could remember. I made a timeline. I opened up my laptop and started a formal HR complaint. It wasn't just about that day, it was about everything. But here's the thing, I waited until Monday morning at exactly 8:03 a.m. to send it. Why? Because Mike was up for a major promotion. Director of Operations. I knew this because his executive assistant, Tanya, who can't stand him either, told me in passing a week before. She said his review was happening sometime midweek. I figured Monday morning would give the complaint just enough time to rise to the surface before his review. I wasn't wrong. That same day, I got an email back from HR asking for a meeting. I met with them that afternoon. I laid it all out. I didn't hold back. I told them about the way Mike talked to me and other team members. About the way he brushed off real concerns. I gave them names of 3 coworkers who were there during some of his worst moments. Before I did that, I messaged each one privately. I didn't ask them to lie, I just asked if they remembered those moments and were willing to confirm them. Every single one said yes. The HR rep looked uncomfortable during our meeting. Like she knew something was going to hit the fan. She thanked me, said they'd look into it, and that was that, for now. By Wednesday, the energy in the office had shifted. Mike was tense. Not his usual arrogant self. His door stayed closed. His voice wasn't echoing through the halls anymore. By Thursday, his calendar was wiped clean. Meetings cancelled. His promotion review? Never happened. On Friday, the company posted the Director of Operations role publicly. That was when I knew. He wasn't getting it. They skipped over him completely. And here's where it gets better. I applied. Not because I thought I'd get it, but because I wanted them to see my name on the list. I wanted them to know that I wasn't just the most vulnerable person. I was someone who finally stood up. The Monday after I applied for the director position, things got tense. I expected Mike to avoid me. Instead, he came right up to my desk. "You enjoying yourself?" he asked, voice low and sharp. I didn't look up from my screen. "I'm doing my job." He let out a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah, for now." That wasn't just a threat. That was him slipping up. He never used to be that direct. That's how I knew he was rattled. By Wednesday, Tanya, the executive assistant who tipped me off, told me something big was brewing behind the scenes. HR had started interviewing my witnesses. Not just the 3 I listed, others, too. Apparently, someone from legal had been brought in. When HR loops in legal, it's not just about a slap on the wrist anymore. But Mike didn't go down quiet. Friday morning, I got called into HR again. They had a printed packet in front of them, my name on top. Emails I'd sent. Messages from Slack. A couple were taken out of context. Things like, "I'm losing it," or "This is impossible," during crunch weeks. Stuff anyone in tech would say. But they were highlighted. Underlined. "Mike submitted a counter-report," HR said. "He claims you've been emotionally unstable and disruptive. That your complaints stem from personal bias, not real issues." I sat there stunned. They were trying to make it look like I was the problem. I didn't yell. I didn't panic. I asked one question: "Are you seriously entertaining this?" HR didn't answer that directly. Instead, they asked me to put together a response and clarify the tone and meaning of some of the communications. I knew then what Mike was doing. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to drag me down with him. But I wasn't alone. That afternoon, I ran into April, one of the coworkers I listed in my original report. She pulled me aside and said, "They talked to me today." I told them exactly what I saw at the picnic. I also told them you weren't the only one Mike's bullied. That lit a fire in me. I sent another email to HR, this time with more names. Not just coworkers who could back up my story, but others I knew had quietly left the company after bad run-ins with Mike. I didn't know exactly what happened with all of them, but I gave HR dates, times, and departments. Enough for them to dig. And they did. A week later, I heard that 2 former employees had been contacted for interviews. One of them, a guy named Nolan from DevOps, emailed me personally. "I heard what you did," he wrote. "Took guts. That guy made my life hell. I'll back you up however I can." That email hit hard. It reminded me why I started this in the first place. But it wasn't over yet. Mike started fighting dirty. He sent out a department-wide email, thinly veiled, full of passive-aggressive lines about people who can't handle pressure and toxic negativity from within. No names, but everyone knew what it was about. I almost replied. I almost blasted him right there. But instead, I forwarded it to HR. They called me the next day. They wanted to meet. Again. Only this time, they weren't asking questions. They were letting me know that Mike was being placed on administrative leave, pending further investigation. They didn't say it, but I knew it, they had enough. But here's the part that still messes with me. Some people in the office didn't like what I did. I started getting the cold shoulder from a few coworkers. People who used to chat with me by the coffee machine now avoided eye contact. A guy from sales actually told me, "I don't get why you had to go nuclear." We all knew Mike was kind of a jerk, but this? You just made work awkward for everyone. That one stung. Because I didn't do this to make a point. I did it because I was humiliated, publicly, and I'd been disrespected for years. Still, I started wondering, had I gone too far? But just when I started second-guessing everything, something happened that shut all that doubt down for good. 2 weeks after Mike was placed on leave, I noticed something weird. HR hadn't said much since, and while the office was quieter without him, it wasn't calmer. Everyone felt like they were walking on glass. Then Tanya asked to meet me outside of work. We grabbed coffee at this little place near the office. She looked nervous, eyes darting like she was afraid someone might be listening, even though we were nowhere near the company. She said, "I didn't tell you everything before." I leaned in. She told me Mike had a burner email account. He used it to talk trash about coworkers, including me. He sent screenshots of people's private Slack messages to upper management, twisted around to make them look bad. He'd forward things to the VP anonymously, blaming project delays on others to cover his own mistakes. And he didn't stop there. She said she once saw an email where Mike referred to another coworker, John, as a waste of salary and said he'd find a way to push him out by Q3. John was laid off 3 months ago. No warning. Just company downsizing. I felt sick. That's when Tanya dropped the bomb. She'd printed some of the emails. At first, just to protect herself in case she got blamed. But now she wanted to hand them over. "I've had enough of watching people get stomped on," she said. "He's been playing everyone. And you weren't the only one he humiliated." We went over them together. There were at least a dozen emails, all from Mike's personal Gmail. Things he never thought would surface. Things that showed a pattern, targeting employees, twisting facts, kissing up to leadership while stabbing everyone else in the back. The next morning, Tanya brought them straight to HR. And that's when the real investigation started. They pulled an IT. Started going through archived files, deleted messages, old backups. It wasn't just harassment anymore. It was manipulation, cover-ups, targeted pressure campaigns. And the worst part? HR had missed it all until now. I was called into a meeting. This time not with the usual HR rep, but with the VP of Corporate Affairs and someone from legal. They thanked me. Not in a "yay, you did the right thing" kind of way, but in a serious, heavy tone. Like they'd uncovered a mess way bigger than they expected. "Your report opened a door we didn't realize needed opening," one of them said. By the end of that week, 3 other current employees had submitted their own reports. 2 of them broke down during their interviews. Mike's tough leadership style was a cover. He'd been mentally beating people down for years. They started talking settlement options with some of the former employees. And just when I thought that would be the peak of it, Mike showed up. Not at the office. At my gym. He didn't say a word at first. Just stared from across the parking lot. Then, as I walked to my car, he stepped in front of me. "You think you won?" he said. "You really think they're going to promote you after this? You've made yourself into a liability." I didn't answer. I just pulled out my phone and recorded him. "You're gonna regret this," he said, before walking off. I sent that video to HR within 5 minutes. He was officially terminated the next day. But here's the twist that shook me up the most: the VP who gave Mike the mic at the picnic? The one who laughed at the most vulnerable person joke? He was the one pushing Mike for that promotion in the first place. And now? He'd gone quiet. The VP's name was Rick Dalton. Late 50s, all charm on the outside, cold as a freezer underneath. He was the one who used to pat me on the back after company town halls and say crap like, "We need more folks like you stepping up." But when Mike humiliated me at the picnic, Rick was the first one laughing. Not the kind of polite chuckle. No. He leaned into it. Slapped his knee. Called out, "That's brutal, Mike," as the crowd roared. After Mike got fired, Rick vanished. No meetings. No, "How are you holding up?" Nothing. He stopped replying to emails, and rumors started spreading. Some said he was on vacation. Others said taking time while HR cleaned things up. I didn't buy it. So I started asking around. It turns out Rick wasn't just backing Mike, he was covering for him. A friend in accounting told me Rick personally signed off on every raise Mike got. Even when the rest of us were on salary freezes. There were expense reports that didn't match up. Mike's client entertainment costs were padded, thousands of dollars spent with no receipts, just vague entries like business dinner, client lead generation. But nobody questioned it. Why? Because Rick approved them all. It was bigger than humiliation. Bigger than just a toxic boss. It was corruption. Quiet. Hidden. Protected. I went back to HR one final time. I asked, flat out, "Are you looking into Rick too?" They hesitated. One of them finally said, "We're reviewing all leadership decisions tied to Mike. That includes Mr. Dalton." The next Monday, Rick stepped down. No public statement. No goodbye email. Just an effective immediately notice from the board. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because 2 weeks later, I got a call. From the board. Not HR. Not legal. The board. They asked me to come in for a private meeting. I thought it was about the director role. It wasn't. They sat me down and told me they were impressed by how I handled myself. That exposing what I did helped them clean house. That I helped save the company from a PR nightmare. I should have felt proud. But then came the catch. "We need to be honest with you," one of the board members said. "You're respected by many, but not everyone sees you as a team player anymore." The Mike situation divided staff. There's tension. People are uncomfortable. Some see you as the problem now. I sat there, stunned. "So what are you saying?" I asked. They offered me a quiet exit. A payout. A glowing recommendation letter. 3 months' salary. In return, I walk away quietly. No lawsuit. No interviews with the press. Just disappear. I had a choice. Stay, fight harder, maybe get buried under office politics and resentful coworkers. Or take the money and walk away with my head held high. I took the deal. But I didn't walk away in silence. Before I left, I wrote one last company-wide email. I kept it clean. Professional. But clear. I said I'd been publicly mocked by leadership. I said standing up for myself cost me more than I expected. I said that sometimes, doing the right thing isn't welcomed, but it's still worth doing. Then I hit send. A week after I left, Tanya texted me. Your email's framed in the break room now. Someone printed it out. I don't know who did it. But I like to think that one of the quiet ones. The ones like me, finally found their voice. Mike lost his job. Rick lost his position. And yeah, maybe I lost mine too. But I kept my spine. And that's something no one at that company could ever fake again.